I'm Kellen, and today we'll be talking about the tablet controller, what it can currently do. It's very limited right now, but then also how to write code to expand it and make it cooler. So we'll start off with just a demo of what it currently is. Uh, Currently, we can enter in the IP address of the robot. We can make the robot go to different poses, such as a sit or a stand, or one of the other predetermined poses that the now can do. So we'll just demo that. I think it's on 10.0.0.7.
Hello, I'm now. My internet address is 1.0.0.7.
Perfect.
My battery is now fully charged.
Awesome. Good to hear that. So we'll try to connect, and it says now that we are connected to the now. So we can make the now stand. Perfect. And then whenever we disconnect,
Look.
the now goes down to a crouch and disengages its motors in order to save battery. Okay, so that's awesome, but how can we use that? The code is pretty well documented. At least I tried to make it so. So you can see what's going on with each block of code. But I'm going to go through and I'm going to add in a button that makes the now say something that we enter into a text box. So we can have the now say, "Hello world, I like programming," or whatever else we want to say. So for the sake of time, I'm actually going to be copying and pasting in code that I've already written, but I'll go through it line by line and explain what's going on. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add our code. We're going to set up a text entry for the text-to-speech input. So we're going to create a speech variable that's actually going to be a string. It's a Tkinter. It's a special string used in Tkinter, which is what we use to program the GUI in. So the speech entry is going to be a text entry, and the variable that we're going to be editing is called the speech variable. So when I entered in the IP address, that was also a string variable. The entry itself came from that text variable. Now in Tkinter, we need to tell everything where it is in a grid. So we need to tell this text entry that it's in column 1, row 1 of the grid. Sticky, EW just means sticky east to west, so it's going to try to stick to the east and the west walls of its cell. And the pad X and pad Y are we're going to pad it a little bit in each of those directions, so the buttons aren't all right next to each other. Now, since this is a text box, we want to have the user be able to hit enter and have the action happen as well. So we're going to bind the enter key, or the return key, to the method self.say, which we'll go on and fill in a little bit. So we also need to provide the user with a default variable. We'll just say hello world. So the first time you run this, hello world is already entered into that text box. So whenever you hit enter in that text box, it'll say hello world. Now that's nice, but sometimes the user doesn't quite understand from hello world what it's supposed to be doing. So a nice thing to do is to add in a little prompt for the user. So that's what this is. This is a label for text-to-speech. So it's basically just a text that's always going to be there, and it's going to be right to the left of the text box, and it's just going to say speech for now. And that's it. And again, we need to tell it where it is, so we're going to put it in column 0, so that's one column to the left of the speech entry. We're going to put it in row 1, and again, we're going to pad the X and Y directions. Okay, so that's nice, but what if we don't want the user to have to hit enter in the text box? What if we want to just have them be able to hit a button? Well, we can do that. We'll go ahead and add in button. I can't type, apparently. Okay, so we create a button, and this is a Tkinter button. And we're going to have the button say speak on it. And whenever it's pressed, we're going to run the method self.say. That should look familiar, because when we hit the enter button, we ran the same thing. So both of those are going to run the same piece of code. And again, put it in the grid. We're going to put it one column to the right, this time, of the speech entry. We're going to put it in row 1, sticky east-west, and again, we're going to pad it in both directions. So that's nice. However, I didn't actually fill in the code for say. It's some pretty simple code. Um, Stuff that you should have already used before, but we'll go ahead and paste it in here. So we're going to try, and we're going to have it, we don't need that yet. We're going to have it say whatever the speech variable currently is. So initially it's set to hello world, but we can go ahead and we can type on that and we can change it so it'll say whatever's in that box at this time. Now we need to do a try and except block here, because what if we haven't connected to the now yet? We don't want the program to crash. So if we haven't connected to the now when we try to have it say something, we're going to get this attribute error. And all we're going to do is we're going to tell the user that we need to please connect to the now first. So I'll go ahead and save this, and then I'll run it. And now we have a whole new row right here. We have speech for now, hello world, and speak. So if I haven't connected to the now yet, and I hit speak, it tells me please connect to the now first. So I'll go ahead and do that. I can hit enter as well, and that'll do connection. Now when I say speak,
Hello world.
we have the now say something. I like Python, just to show you that it can do different things.
I like Python.
Perfect.
Look, look.
All right. Now, what if we wanted the now to have a different volume? Say we thought it was speaking too loud, or we couldn't hear it. Well, we can also add in a slider that will change the value of the now's voice, or the loudness of the now's voice. So that's what this is right here. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create that label like we did, so the user knows what this is actually for. So volume label is a Tkinter label, and it's just going to say volume. We're going to put it into the third column, sorry, the 0th row, and again we're going to pad it in the X and the Y direction and make it a sticky east to west. So now we need to create a scale. A scale is Tkinter's version of a slider, the value that you can adjust. So here's the code for that. Whoops. Let's maintain our indentation. So the scale is a Tkinter scale. It's going to be a length of 200 pixels, and the values that it can take on is from 0.05 to 1.0 with a resolution of 0.05. So what that means is the values that the scale can have are 0.5, 0.1, 0.15, 0.2, and so on and so forth up until 1.0. And that's useful for us because that's how the now uses its volume. It's on a scale between 0 and 1, with 1 being as loud as it is, the loudest it can be, and 0 being 0, or quiet. Now one important thing to notice right here is this underscore after the from. In this method, that's important because from is actually a keyword in Python, so if I got rid of that, it would highlight it. And we don't want that. We want it to actually be the variable that we need. So we put an underscore after it because that's just how the tkinter.scale initialization is defined. Again, we place this into the grid. We need it in the third column, first row, so this should be directly underneath the volume label. We're going to have it be a row span of 3, so that means that it's not going to just sit in one row and then everything else in that row gets adjusted to 200 pixels, but it's going to cover 3 different rows. So it'll make it look nicer, as you'll see in a second. And again, we're going to make it sticky east to west, and we're going to pad it in the X and the Y direction. Now we're also going to set its initial value to 0.075 or 0.75, just as a nice one. All right, and I accidentally deleted the code that I needed down here, so we'll go ahead and add it in real quick. We also want the robot, whenever it is going to say something, we need it to set its volume. And we want it to set the volume as self dot, what do we call this? Self dot scale. All right. Hopefully I typed that code correctly. So now we have the scale over here. We can adjust it to different values. It goes from 1.0 all the way to 0.5 or 0.05. Okay. So let's connect to the now. And hopefully this doesn't give me an error.
Hello world.
Beautiful. Now we can make it even quieter.
Hello world. Hello world. Hello world.
There we go. So there will be more things in the final tablet controller. This is just a version.
Look.
But hopefully this gives you a little bit of experience with Tkinter and kind of helps you familiarize yourself with it. And again, in the final product there will be a lot more documentation, so it should be easy to scroll through the code. And the idea of this tutorial is just to get you a little bit more familiar with it.